Hey guys, I want to talk a little bit about staging today, okay? One of the things that I do for some of my clients is map their workflow, okay? And I happen to have created a generic workflow map here of staging for illustration for you guys so you can see what that looks like. But anyhow, we've talked a lot about staging. We all recognize that staging jobs, getting everything ready in advance of a job so that when an operator makes that change, everything is ready to go. That's what I mean about staging, okay? So let me waste no more time and get right into it and show you how I use a map of the process to make decisions and to also be able to see my process and make improvements to it and criticize it and all that. Okay, so right here we're going to begin staging. Now in this case you have a person who's dedicated to staging jobs for this press. It could be someone who does it for multiple presses, or the assistant of this press operator, or the operator himself, depending on what your situation is. Okay, now the first question that this individual asks himself is, are there a sufficient number of jobs staged? If the answer is no, then he's going to have to stage a job with the aid of a checklist observing this workflow. Now, this is a checklist, so I'll show you what a checklist for staging might look like. Here's a checklist for a job. It has the job number, when this individual started setting up or staging, when they stopped staging for information, management information, their initials, and ultimately the supervisor's initials, because the supervisor is going to confirm that this got done correctly. So you have a variety of things that you can pause this video and observe here what I'm expecting this individual to get ready and make sure is ready for a given job, or when a job change is coming up. Okay, and you can pause and look at that. Okay, so back to the workflow. So if the job's not staged, they would apply a checklist to make sure that there are enough jobs staged. They would obtain a jacket, the stack of information in the front of the stack of staged jackets, because the jackets are already changed. They ask themselves, is this the next job on the schedule? If the answer is no, they ought to notify the operator. If the answer is yes, they ask themselves, was a work order checklist signed? Inside of this jacket would be a checklist that the supervisor uses to make sure that all of the documents, all of the stuff inside the package are complete. So they would make sure that the job number matches the color standard, special instructions have been reviewed, special printing instructions have been reviewed, samples have been signed, and so on and so forth. So the individual staging would make sure that this was done. If not, they would drop off the checklist at the supervisor's office without waiting. Okay, if it was, they'd ask the same thing about the spec sheet in the jacket. Is it in there? If not, they notify the operator. If it is, they have a special planning sheet for sequencing things, and they check to see if it's completed. If it's not, they notify the operator. If it is, they stage the color standard for the operator so that that's ready. Okay, and I know I'm going through this quickly, but I just want you to get the idea of how questions are asked and decisions are made based on what the answers to those questions are. They check to see if the QC folder is staged. If it's not, they notify the operator. Now, if the operator does not know why the folder is not staged, he should advise QC through the staging tech as soon as possible. This way, QC can make an investigation as to why the QC folder wasn't staged for this job. Okay, if it is staged, they unwrap the skid of film for the job. This is a wide web situation. They place the roll on the cart. They stage the pallet with cardboard and cradles at rewind. And they ask themselves if the ink is staged. If it's not, they notify the operator. Okay. If there's communication with the ink tech or the supervisor required, the staging tech does the legwork for the operator. So the operator is not leaving the press. If the ink is staged, or once it's staged, he asks himself, are there enough agitators and sumps for the next job? If not, you notify the operator. Again, if there's communication with the cleaning crew required, the staging tech does the legwork for the operator. If there are enough sumps, yes. Is there room in the dirty solvent drum? Because when you're changing, you're dumping out solvent, you want to make sure you have room and you're not stopped by a full drum. If the answer is no, they notify a qualified waste handler to make sure that that situation is remedied in anticipation of the next job. If the answer is yes, they top off the solvent in the safety containers. Okay. They stage the rags at strategic locations for the changeover. There are 3 types of rag storage, not including the used rags. There's a main bulk location. There's an intermediate stash where there's a moderate amount of rags. And then there are individual strategic locations around the equipment. So they stage these rags. Then they ask themselves, is the mounting checklist signed? Because the plate mounter has a checklist that he applies when he's done. Make sure that everything is okay. If not, they notify the mounter, but they continue to stage the sleeves. The mounter must make the check of the sleeves before it goes to press, but the staging tech can place the sleeves on the cart. Okay, this is a sleeve press in this case. If the answer is yes, or once the mounting checklist is done, they can stage the plate sleeves and the bridges if required at the press. Okay. Make this a little bigger here real quick. Oops. There we go. And then they confirm the availability of analog sleeves specified. Okay, maybe there's some changes and they need to make sure that these things aren't being washed or not tied up at another press. Once all the specified sleeves are available, if they're not, then he notifies the operator, and the operator might deviate from spec, and there's a protocol for that. If the sleeves are available, then he comes down here and stages the sleeves. Okay, if they're not available, the operator may deviate from spec. If he does, is the deviation approved? You ask yourself, because any deviation from spec must be approved by a supervisor. If the deviation is not approved, there's a conflict that needs to be resolved here. Once the deviation is approved, we decide, is the change permanent? Will they always be, will this job go to this other analogs, for example, permanently? If the answer is no, they'll note the changes to the affected documents as temporary, because we still want to know what analogs roles have been used. If the answer is yes, they'll note the changes to the affected documents as permanent, and then they'll complete the appropriate change notice form. There's a protocol for changes to work orders, okay, and to that sort of thing. And then they'll finally stage the analog sleeves. They'll stage the cores. Then they'll start the ink transfer sheet, which is a document that the press operator needs to complete. They'll start that off for the operator, the staging person will. They'll start the roll tracking sheet, another document, start roll labels, and sign in the raw material requisition form. Okay. Once that's done, they'll log the stage job on the schedule, and that's the end of the staging process. Now let me back up here a second, because we skipped the whole process. Okay. Okay. If up here, if there are enough, a sufficient number of jobs staged, then the staging person looks and asks himself, are jobs requiring a closeout, which is the stuff that happens when a job is done, also done by the staging person. If there's not a job requiring the closeout, the staging person sees the supervisor for an assignment. If a job does require closeout, then that individual closes out the job with the aid of a checklist. So let's see if we have a checklist for that. There we go. So right here we have a closeout checklist. So this staging person will make sure that the ink sumps and parts are taken to the cleaning location. The ends of the analog sleeves are cleaned, they're wiped inside and out, visually checked, inspected, and wipe. They inspect and wipe the inside of a sleeve protector. They store the sleeves. They flagged sleeves requiring more inspection for possible cleanup or rework. The plate sleeves are all similarly put away, and all the color standards and stuff like that are also put away. And that's the way the staging person closes out a job. Okay, I know this took a long time, guys, but I think this stuff is pretty important. You know, the better we prepare the environment for the operator to be able to make the change, then the faster these changeovers take place. And where you make your money is on downtime. Okay, it takes a lot of long time at a marginal increase of speed to make up for minutes of downtime. So it's all about avoided downtime. Okay, guys, I hope you enjoy this. If you have any questions, please feel free to post on the forum at Flexo Exchange or here on the YouTube thing. Have a great day, guys.